My boyfriend keeps telling me about his popularity and how he has other options, knowing about my past relationship and mental health. I don't know what to do. I've been contemplating writing this for a while because I felt like I was reading too much into it and just overthinking things, and it was not worth sharing my problems with a whole lot of other people. I'm also kind of putting myself at the risk of my boyfriend finding this post. But I've had too much on my mind, and this felt like the best place I could share my feelings and get some advice. For context, I, 16F, have been with my boyfriend, 16M, for about a few months. Although we've known each other for a few years, it was about a year ago that he confessed his feelings for me. At first, I was reluctant because of my first and only previous relationship that left me heartbroken and struggling to survive through each night. That story is quite long, but to give a clear idea of the situation, I would like to point out some main parts of it. My ex, Johan, 16M, present day, fake name, and I were best friends who turned to lovers. As we were best friends, we both knew we liked each other, as there were clear signs, but still, we didn't confess to each other for about 4 years. I didn't confess to him even though I knew he liked me, as he sometimes joked about having a crush on another girl, and I wanted him to confess to me first. This was my first major screw-up. After about 4 years, he started to flirt with me a lot more and give me even more clear signs. Each time he would be on the verge of telling me he liked me, he would just leave it there and completely act like nothing happened. This continued over the course of a few months, and each time he did this, it left me hurt. Another thing to note is that we had limited time, about 2 years left when he started to get my hopes up and just throw it all away, as we would go to separate schools after high school. After a few months of doing this, a few months of ignoring, a few months of hurting, and a few months of talking about his crushes, he finally told me one day that he liked me and asked me to be his girlfriend. I asked my mom about what I should say to him, as this was my first relationship, and she was the person I told everything to. She told me to do as I wished and that she was okay with it as long as it doesn't affect my studies. She knew him very well too and had met his parents a few times. But after I accepted his proposal, the very next day, he started ignoring me, and that hurt me so much, especially since he was my first ever boyfriend. I decided to stand my ground and told him that we should just be back to best friends because then I wouldn't hurt as much if he ignored me. He then told me that he didn't actually like me and just asked me to be his girlfriend only because he felt bad for all the times I cried when he got my hopes up. Over the next few months, our relationship strained a lot, and I was determined to show him I wasn't sad and was fine without him, which eventually led me to participate in and win competitions I never even thought of participating in before. I also changed my fashion style completely and had kind of a glow up. I used to be a top student, and I continued that all throughout this. I got a lot more popular and involved in everything. Then one day, he asked to make up again and be friends like before. I agreed. But then, after a lot of talking, I just had to ask him if he liked me ever, and he said that he quite frankly never liked me that way and had some other problems to deal with and completely forgot about me. He also told me that his friends pressured him to confess to me and that it wasn't by choice. This was an eye-opener for me because all this while I thought he was in the wrong, but with this new information, I felt a bit guilty for ever thinking it was his fault. This was the beginning of my downfall. I was so hurt that I stopped my life completely. I went from a straight A student to just passing. My whole life fell apart. I constantly cried myself to sleep. I stopped putting effort into my looks so much that even the teacher called me separately to ask what happened to me. I went from the best student to the worst. I couldn't take it anymore so much that I tried to end my life. My grades dropped so much, and my smile faded. My mom took notice of this and took me to a psychiatrist who just recommended me to meditate. This is where my boyfriend, Oliver, fake name, comes in. We got to talking, and eventually, his friends told me that he liked me. He finally confessed, but it took me a while to say yes to him because of the things going on in my mind. I was doing just fine, and I was getting better. Then my ex tried to get me back, saying he didn't mean it back then and just now realized how precious I was and, all those talks. I still chose to be with Jack rather than that toxic relationship that almost left me unalived and begging God to let me survive the night. I even called my friend in the middle of the night in a complete meltdown, telling her that I didn't want to pass away. But now I was starting to get better with Jack by my side. He did all the right things in the beginning. He was the most caring, loving person I knew. He always made me smile and always comforted me. No matter what happened, he always fought for our love. I guess that did it for me because after that, I became his girlfriend. It was flowers and butterflies at first. Even my family began to notice how my smile had returned to my face, and they acknowledged it. But then I moved schools, and he became the leader of our previous school. He gained a lot of popularity from it. But I was the one who comforted him throughout and said that he would win the election and become the leader of that school. We vote for the one we think should be the leader. After that, everything was just different. His popularity meant that a lot of girls from lower classes began to have crushes on him. He knew it too. He also started working out and became even more good-looking, gaining him more popularity. Now I don't even know what he is becoming anymore. He doesn't care about me as much as he did. He always tried to fix things before, but now I'm the one begging him and apologizing for the smallest of things. I'm too much in love with him right now, and I think he's starting to fall out of love with me. From his point of view, he has become too good for me, and I agree, but still, I feel like I deserve him for always supporting him. He also brings up my toxic ex when we argue. He himself has said that I'm the reason he's the guy he is now. But sometimes he acts as if I'm just another girl to him and could replace me any day with any of his so-called fans or chicks, as he calls them. It triggers me, but I can't argue with him about it because then I'm afraid I'll lose him. I don't know if I am overthinking this, but I constantly feel like I am the one putting in all the effort and he could just replace me easily. I love him so much, and he is the guy of my dreams. Or used to be, at least. Compared to my ex, this man is very caring, but I don't know if I will ever find someone half as good as him. I know of people who do too much for the people they love, but I feel like I am lucky I found him at least, and I could never find someone as good as him. All the good guys are taken. And compared to my ex, Jack is a wonderful guy. But all these small things are starting to get to me. I'm allowing a lot of disrespect to myself, but if I go solo, I may not make it out alive. If I continue in this relationship, I'd be constantly crying as I am right now. I'm getting hurt a lot, so much that I am starting to pray I don't wake up the next day. There is a voice inside me telling me that I don't deserve this and that I deserve to be happy, but maybe that's just part of love. A part of me tells me to just go solo and work on myself and that I'll find the right man when it's time. I don't know what to do. I don't know if I am just overthinking it and he will come around to me. Or maybe he's right, he's too good for me and deserves someone as good as him, even though I made him the man he is now. Am I reading into this too much?